What's up, guys? Today, Jacob and I are covering episode 6 of Last of Us, The Kin.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. After last week, I think we all are a little traumatized after what happened to Henry and Sam. So this is a little lighter episode in terms of action, but it makes up for it in terms of emotion, in my opinion. We see a lot of what Joel has been burying deep inside. Ellie starting to get a bit of attachment to Joel, like father, like daughter relationship, which I think is really interesting. We see a lot more of that in this episode.
Yeah, I agree. There were several times in this episode where Joel just, panics and doesn't know what to do, because he's really starting to care for Ellie and doesn't want to lose her. But I don't think it's just about Ellie. I think it's also due to his age and the stress he's under or he's been under since the whole outbreak.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has a little bit to do with his age. But I really think mostly it's the experiencing the trauma he's experienced with his daughter, and his brain just can't handle it. And his body and mind just shutting down in those situations.
Yeah, well, what did you think of the old Indian couple?
I think they're perfect. I wouldn't change a thing about their characters. They added a little bit of humor to a dark situation, and that has been proven to be challenging again and again. So I really enjoyed them.
I agree. The humor was great and doesn't throw the show off kill at all. Did you know Marlon is played by Graham Greene? I know him from movies like Dancing with Wolves, Maverick, which is a Mel Gibson movie. Freaking love that movie. And another great movie called Green Mile. He doesn't have a big part in it. He's only at the beginning, but it's a great movie. If you didn't know those, I mean, those are like three of his like huge movies he's in. Also, did you know that his wife Florence, played by Elaine Miles, I'd actually had to look her up because she looked familiar, but I wasn't sure where I knew her from. It's actually from the show that I used to watch as a kid. I loved this show called Northern Exposure. As soon as I looked at it, I was like, "Oh, okay." She looks nothing like she did back then, but I knew her from somewhere, and I loved that show growing up.
I miss that show when I was a kid, so I've never seen it, or nor have I ever heard it. But she did look familiar, which was weird considering I've never seen the show. But that is interesting.
Yeah, it was a great show. But when Marlon first comes into the house and he looks at Florence and he knows someone's in the house just by their chemistry alone, which I thought was great. There was this one scene that I really thought stood out.
You made him soup?
Yeah, I did.
You telling the truth?
Yeah,
Are you telling me the truth?
yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that whole scene right there was just really funny.
Well, you can tell that this isn't their first time in this kind of situation based off of their chemistry, like you were saying.
So to continue the story, when Joel and Ellie leave both Marlon and Florence's home, they tell them before they leave about the river of death. And it turns out that's where Joel's brother Tommy is. And all the people that he was talking about, who died on the river of death or didn't make it back or never came back, according to Tommy, those are the raiders who didn't pass, the test. Honestly, I didn't know how much to believe of what he was saying, because the way he said it, those are the people who didn't pass. And I feel like there's something more to it.
Yeah, I think there might be some hidden agenda that we don't really know about. But I mean, like, let's be real. Like, this is the end of the world here. So who doesn't have a hidden agenda? And rolling up across the river, this scene really scared me. And the reason why is I had no idea what was going to happen, especially considering the older couple made it sound really bad. And it was, I guess, if you didn't pass the test, I was extremely scared for Ellie. I had no idea if the dog was going to pick up whatever scent she had, if it had to do with the virus. But she ended up passing the test, which was a relief. I really glad she passed the test. I was really scared for her. Also, this is where we see Joel really struggling for the first time in terms of not knowing what the heck to do, and it scares the crap out of him. Like, you could see it on his face, and it's a pretty wild moment. He's like, "What am I?" He feels helpless in the situation. Like, if you look at his face, that's like the kind of expression that he's giving.
I totally agree with you. This whole scene, I had no idea what was going to happen. I mean, what could Joe really do in that scene? Nothing, to be honest. If that dog would have smelt anything on Ellie, virus wise, and just attacked her, it was done. It was done,
Yeah,
son.
I agree. That's what I mean. Like, what can you do in that situation? And that's kind of where Joel beat himself up. He's like, hey, I should have done something. I mean, buddy, as much as I know you wanted to do something, there's nothing you can do in that situation. You just gotta hope for the best.
Yeah, only thing he really could have done is not gotten into that situation to begin with.
Yeah,
That's it.
which would mean not finding Tommy. And with that,
Yeah.
that kind of brings us to the town of Jackson. There's some information I thought was really cool about this town. In the game, they was going to put Jackson in, but they didn't have the time or budget to put it in the game, so they decided to let us see it here, which I thought was a great idea for the fans that played the game and the fans that hasn't played the game. We get to see a little bit more. It's very nice of them to do, considering they even hint at Jackson in the game. I believe Joel says in the game that they're going to be watching movies tonight, and in the show, we actually see them in the theater watching movies. So that's like a little throwback to the game, if people didn't know.
I don't remember what really was said in this part of the game, but I do, kind of wish the show did show a little bit more about the dam part of the game. The show does pin over the dam in the background, just for like a moment. In the game, however, you go to the dam and you help Tommy. In the game, you go and help start up, the dam, give power to the town of Jackson. But like you said, you don't get the town in the game, you get the dam. But I guess you can't put like the whole game into the show, so I understand. But I did think that part of the game was pretty cool. So I was a little bummed not seeing it.
I'm going to say something real quick. Well, when they're writing a game, they got to write the story different than when you're writing a show. Like, there's got to be a stopping and starting point when you are writing a show. There doesn't have to be that in a game. You can just keep playing and playing and playing until your heart's content. So I really feel like that really plays a big role in how they got to write it slightly different than the actual game, I feel like the dam would have been its own episode if they chose to actually put it in the show. And the reason why is because that could be that has enough information to actually be a whole episode if they wanted to do it. But that would be a filler episode like we got in episode 3 with Bill and Frank.
Honestly, I feel like we could have did without Bill and Frank episode and put an episode where there's more action, like this part of the game where there's more action. But not to argue about it, overall, I did like it. Like, I did like what they did with the show, the town. But however, the whole time Joel was in Jackson talking to his brother, I was really wondering if he's going to tell him about Ellie or not. Because, they're so close. I thought they were going to share everything to each other. But when Tommy asked about Tess and he lies, I knew he wasn't going to tell him about, Ellie. Not at that moment anyways. But when Tommy says he's going to be a dad, and the way Joel takes it is just pretty rough. It brings back way too many, personal memories for Joel.
See, what is interesting about this is you see Joel and Tommy in their true relationship. Joel is controlling, and you see it now that they're together. Their brotherly love turns pretty sour quick. Like in the scene when they're in the bar. Joel says,
What, because your wife won't let you? Joel. She the one who kept you off the radio? Is that why you stopped messaging me back?
and you can see he is jealous. He brought her into their inner circle, and Joel does not like it at all. And that's when Tommy says he's going to be a father. He springs it on Joel. And Joel takes it the best he can in the way that Tommy says it.
Just because life stopped for you doesn't mean it has to stop for me.
I think, and like I said before, I think Joel really took it the best he possibly can. And like I said, it's just because of their dynamic and their brother. Like, he's very defensive of Tommy, and we're seeing a lot of that here.
Yeah, that's his only family he has left. So
Protective,
he's
absolutely.
going to be very defensive and very protective and very controlling.
Especially considering he just
of
traveled
him.
like a little over halfway across the country in an affected wasteland just to get to Tommy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you're right. That whole conversation was just completely wild. But shortly after, they make up is where Joel tells, Tommy about Ellie, and her condition and how she's immune, and also the truth about Tess. In this whole moment, you see Joel as like a different person almost. Like his guard is completely let down. There's only one person that he would do this with is, Tommy. And I really like this whole scene. I wish we got more of Joe talking to Tommy about this, but it kind of cuts to other people.
This is in scenes like this is like the action of the episode. This is what brings us in. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, it's just as significant as what happened in KC, because it's different. But I feel like this scene right here, these scenes like this is key to the episode, really. And Joel lets his guard down. He has no other choice. He's starting to have these panic attacks, and he has no idea what it is or why he's feeling this way. And that's a direct response to Ellie being like a daughter figure to him, and how he feels like he's failed her multiple times throughout since the series has started. He really doesn't want to fail Ellie, and he feels that way. I mean, you can see it.
Yeah, exactly. And when he tries to pawn off Ellie to Tommy, I was 100% surprised. And the fact that Ellie even overheard the conversation, that has to have been tough, on her. Because, we see them argue in the house about how everyone has left her. She has no, her family, her friends, they're all gone. It's just her. And all she has left now is Joel. But in the morning, when Tommy comes knocking on the door, we see Ellie, and she's like really hoping that's Joel, but it wasn't. It was Tommy, and you can see the disappointment in her face, completely. But luckily, they don't linger long about Joel not tagging on. I hate that when he's going to be coming with, but they just keep lingering on. So I was glad that the very next scene, we see him in the horse. What do you call that? Horse station,
Stables,
horse,
sir? Stables?
Whatever, where they keep the horses. There you go, stable. Yeah, the horse stable. And that's where he gives Ellie the choice. And do you want to go with me? Or do you want to go to Tommy? And that was cool. I enjoyed that. And they finally make it to the science building. But it's been completely abandoned. But did you know those monkeys that you see? Those are also in the game as well. Like I always thought in the game they were gonna like attack me or something, but they're just for show.
I thought that was gonna happen in the show, and like that's what raised questions to me. It's just like, because if you haven't noticed, and I don't know if the people have noticed this at all either, but you don't see animals that are infected with this. I don't think I've seen one animal, like not even one animal that is infected with the mushrooms. I was curious, like after this, I was like, I guess no animals are affected by this, which I thought would be weird considering it's a body temperature thing. And the fact that it can grow in 96 degrees or higher, then it could live in animals as well. So that was my deal. I didn't really understand that, but I guess it's only humans.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure
if
either.
anyone knows or can find out, let us know, because I'm curious.
So before they can head out, some raiders show up, and as they're trying to sneak out, one guy sees them and just jumps Joel. But Joel, he just completely overpowers him. And this was so cool because in the whole time I've been watching this show, I've been waiting for a kill like they do in the games. And they finally do it. They finally do something similar on how whenever you choke someone in the game, he does it. He's almost exactly the same. I was like, oh, we finally get it. Finally get the strangle that they do in the game. So that was awesome. But when Joel turns around and Ellie's just like staring at him, and you're like, oh damn. He's got like a shiv in his gut, in his stomach. And honestly, I completely forgot about this part of the game. And when I saw this ending, I was like, yep, now I remember and know exactly where it's going next. But don't worry, I'm not going to ruin it for you or anyone else. So I don't know if you watched the ending of or the preview for the next episode, but it looks like they're going to go DLC area where it's just Ellie and the her friend. So there's a DLC. I didn't play the DLC for The Last of Us, but I think it's called Left Behind. It's where it shows how Ellie got bit and what happened. It takes place like when they're in the mall just goofing off and they see a clicker and it attacks them.
I did see that part, but I didn't think it was past tense. I thought it was in the future because I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a prequel, basically. It's from the Left Behind DLC. So that's pretty cool because I don't know that story very well because I didn't really play it in the game. So I'm excited to see it.
I'm looking forward to see it. I'm actually more excited now than ever.
Yep. I'm excited to watch it. I'm still loving this show. I'm still really liking it. So I know some people kind of falling off the wagon, but I still think it's a great show. I don't know if I can still stand behind this is the best show of 2023, but it's up there with the best shows of 2023. Only reason why I say that is because Boys season 4 is coming out, and that is probably gonna be the best show of 2023. Anyways, this is our thoughts on episode 6 of Last of Us, and Jacob and I will catch you next time.